Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. You're listening to That Infernal Noise, now part of the Mental Health News Radio Network.
Devil, not no more for these, you call me Ichigo. Now I let my aura grow as I pull my Zanpakuto. Let me introduce you, his name is Sangetsu. Well, he will only live if and when we let you. Been through a lot of things, killed oh so many hollows, didn't know at first which path was the right to follow. I don't fight, cause I want to win, I fight, cause I have to. I will take my spirit energy and aim it right back at you. Fighting a nigga be Yakuya, taught me a lot of things, like how to channel and harness all my hate and rage in the form of a bankai. I don't understand why I'm the only one fighting, all the others stand by. I'm not such a saint, I promise that I'll risk my life for strangers. Neither am I scum enough to sit back while they're in danger. Everyone looking at me like I'm a superhero, like this is the Matrix and I'm playing Neo. But I'll see my duty through, what the fuck else would I do? Just let it all rot or leave it up to Udi. You a fuck all that now, cause I'm the one in full control. That is until the hollow takes control over my soul. I'm a fucking anime kid. Make a what? 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 And if you don't like it, shut the motherfucker.
What's up, everybody? Robert again, back for another Thursday therapy session. Today, I wanted to talk about my need to belong. I felt that my entire life, basically. My relationship with my mom wasn't great up until recently, and I bounced back and forth between her house and my grandparents. I never really gave my grandparents a chance to actually parent me the way that they needed to, or the way that they should have been able to, or whatever, because I always yearned for that acceptance and the belonging with my mom. And up until recently, like within the past week, I always felt like I didn't belong anywhere. I didn't belong with my mom. I didn't belong with my grandparents. And I found out certain things from one of my aunts, and I realized that as much as I considered them my parents, especially in my formative years, they considered me their son as well. And that really put a lot of things in perspective. You know, for so long I was worried about who I was and who I could be or whatever, instead of worrying about the person that I am. I had a lot of hate and vitriol for everything, basically. I was very self-destructive. I was very much like a death wish teenager. I thought I was immortal. I thought nothing could ever touch me. And I was worried about keeping up that bravado, that persona that I had, that devil-may-care, don't give a fuck about anything type thing. And not that that's necessarily bad, because you shouldn't care about people's perception of you as long as you're doing right by you and right by what you believe is right, and live by some kind of code, some kind of morals or ethics or whatever you want to call it. It should be fine. And I was not that person at the time. I felt very much that I needed to gratify myself. It was very selfish, very self-centered. I cheated on every girlfriend I ever had because I thought dudes should be that. They should be the Lothario. They should try to bag as many chicks as possible. And I didn't take advantage of that whenever I was a teenager. I did here and there, but it wasn't to the level that it was once I was in my 20s and already married with kids. And I took a lot of things for granted, and I took advantage of a lot of situations that I shouldn't have because I thought I was supposed to, because I was looking for something else, because I was looking for that fulfillment and that sense of belonging and all of that stuff, instead of being grateful for what I had at the time. And not that I would go back and change anything, because I really wouldn't. I've always been of the opinion that I don't have regrets. And I don't, per se, but I do in the aspect that I should have handled things more like an adult, more like a real man, as opposed to the way that I did handle things at the time. And not be so focused on myself and be more focused on my kids, my wife at the time, all that stuff. And I've even had conversations with my older two and my ex-wife about all of that. Just apologizing for not being what I should have been and only focused on what I wanted to be. Or what I wanted to do, rather, not what I wanted to be. I've always been a caring person, so much so that it caused a detriment to me and my mental health, because I was more focused on taking care of everybody else than taking care of myself. And I got taken advantage of a lot by a lot of people. And again, I don't regret it, but I put the focus on the wrong part of my life at that time. I was more worried about taking care of everybody else as opposed to doing what I knew was right. And what I knew was right was taking care of my kids and my family. I've always been afraid of judgment, afraid of the external perception of the person that I am. It was like, oh, he's a bitch, he's a pussy, he wears his heart on his sleeve, yada yada, whatever. Because I've been told that. You know, like, oh, you're a dork because you're into Star Wars, or you like Ninja Turtles, or you're an anime kid, or whatever. And I don't know why I was so concerned with that. It's not until recently that I've come out of the closet and been very open about my nerdy side. And I don't say it with a negative connotation. You know, I consider myself to be very intelligent. I consider myself to be very well spoken. And I hid that part as well, because I didn't want anybody to think that I was talking down or that I was acting like I was better or whatever, instead of trying to lift people up and bring them, as egotistical as it is to say, to my level. I lowered myself to theirs. And it's very difficult for me even now, you know, with the year of therapy under my belt and everything else that I'm doing to try to better myself, to not fall into those same patterns, because I've done it for 37 years. I always try to make everybody else happy. And now I'm getting to the point where I just want to make myself happy, but in a good way. Not in the self-gratification way where I'm only concerned with what I want and what I want to do, or however you want to phrase it. I didn't care about relationships that I destroyed, be it friendships, romantic, whatever. I didn't care then. I care now. I mean, I always kind of cared because I've never personally liked hurting anybody, as vindictive as people say I have been or whatever. It's not the real me. The real me is the one that wants to take care of everybody, is the one that wants to be there for everybody, be the shoulder, be the rock, whatever. And I lost sight of that for a very long time. I was playing this character that I wasn't fulfilled being. And I think a lot of us do that. A lot of us exude this persona that's not really us. There's very few people I met that are 100% themselves 100% of the time. It's very seldom, very, very seldom, and it's unfortunate. But it's because we've been told our entire lives we shouldn't be like this. Oh, suck it up. Oh, you shouldn't be into all this nerdy shit. You look like a fucking dork and whatever. Make fun of because of the clothes we wear or the piercings we have, tattoos, beard, everything. I've been made fun of for fucking everything. I didn't want to get glasses for the longest time because I was worried about the judgment of it. Granted, I don't really need them, but it's very freeing to be this point in my life. And I know I say that a lot. It's gratifying to finally get to a point where people see me as the person that I want to be, not the person I pretended to be. I had a conversation with my mom last week after I talked to my aunt, and or it was before, and she just told me she's very proud that I'm back to the caring, loving, giving person that I was whenever I was a child. Because as a child, you're your most authentic self. There's no bravado that's needed. You haven't been jaded by life. You haven't had everybody beat you down and tell you what you can and can't be. And I'm trying to get back to that point. And I'm mostly there, but there's still some times where I slip and regress and start worrying about shit like that. And it's not fun. It sucks because I feel myself slipping back into it, and then that just creates a whirlwind of everything negative. And I don't want to be that. I don't want to be the guy that's concerned with everybody else's opinion or whatever. I mean, yeah, there's certain instances where you need to take the feedback. You need to be able to hear somebody's opinion of you and grow from it, learn from it, whatever. And I've gotten to that point. And I've gotten to a point where I can express myself and not feel like I'm attacking people because of the judgment that they'll give me based on the feedback that I give them. I really think we all should make more of a concerted effort to be the people that we want to be, not be the people that everybody else expects us to be. Because I've never fallen into the atypical, oh, you have to do this by this age, you have to do that by this age, blah, 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 blah. I don't like that. You're supposed to be married and then have kids and then get the house and whatever. And I did everything ass backwards. Whenever I met my ex-wife, she ended up pregnant inside of a month. And we jumped into being parents way too young. Not that I would change it, because I love my kids, and I'm kind of happy that I'll be young enough to enjoy them going through all the things in high school and all that stuff. I really am happy about that. However, because of my emotional immaturity, they had to suffer because of it. Being my ex-wife and my two oldest kids, they got a different version of me than Niche gets now, and then the younger two get versus what Chris and Kaylee had to deal with. And that's really the only thing I regret in my life. I always said everything happens for a reason, and it put me exactly where I'm supposed to be now. But just from a father's perspective, I wish I could have changed that. I wish I could have been more present at the time instead of drinking, instead of whoring, instead of whatever I did, all of it, and actually focused more on them instead of wanting to have a life in music or going to shows or getting drunk or hanging out with my friends or trying to network or whatever. I really regret that. Not saying I haven't met some cool people because of stuff like that, but I wish I would have been more there for my kids and been the person that I know I am now, if that makes sense. Because they deserved it. They deserve so much more than I gave them as kids, as little kids, rather. You know, and it's getting to the point now where I'm having to deal with the repercussions of that with Chris and Kaylee. Chris isn't distant per se, but based on conversations that he and I had last week, it does mess with him a little bit. It gets to him sometimes. And I know what that feeling feels like. And I do not wish that on anybody, let alone my kids. And Kaylee still expects me to react certain ways because of what she's dealt with in the course of her life from me. And I'd be lying if I said it wasn't heartbreaking, because I said whenever I had kids, I would be nothing like what I was raised with, be it my relationship with my mom, my non-existent relationship with my dad, or my relationship with my stepdad. Because none of that helped me in any shape, way, or form. It is the source of the majority of my trauma. Now I've worked it out. You know, it's not an issue anymore. In that conversation I had with my mom last week, it was even, you know, she felt a lot of the feelings that I'm feeling about Chris and Kaylee toward me. And I told her point blank, it's like, it doesn't matter to me anymore. Because it doesn't. I realized that I became the person that I am in spite of that, not because of that, if that makes sense. I use all of the negative things, all of the negative self-speak, and all of that to my benefit now. I'm not a martyr. I'm not dying on the cross. It's none of that. I went through those things, and the way that I look at it is I went through them so I could learn from it, so I could be a better person, so I could help my children and realize the mistakes that I was making way younger than I maybe would have otherwise. Because I could have been one of those parents that just never acknowledged it. And he's like, nope, you guys didn't deal with shit. You got to suck it up, and I did the best that I could. And I know I didn't. I know I didn't because I have that basis for comparison. And it's not easy to admit that. It really isn't. It feels like a knife through my heart, knowing that I didn't do the exact same things to my kids that happened to me, but it was bad enough. And I'm not proud of it. I'm still trying to make amends for it. I'm still trying to make things right. And granted, you know, they're not the hold a grudge type, luckily. They're not like me. They are very understanding of the journey that I'm on and trying to constantly better myself and trying to parent better than I did before, be a better partner than I was before, father, everything. They understand that. And Chris even said that he doesn't want to bring stuff like that up because he knows I'm not the same person anymore. And while I appreciate that sentiment, at the same time, I'd rather hear it. Because I would rather know that people feel a certain type of way about me. And not because I'm worried about judgment or anything like that. It's more so that if I don't have the information, I can't better myself. And it may sound self-righteous of me or whatever, but I don't really care at this point. It was like, I want people to tell me whenever I screw up. I want to have the opportunity to learn from it and grow because of it, not just stagnate and think I'm doing everything right. Because I'm the first one to admit whenever I screw up. With niche, it may take a while. I mean, granted, we haven't gotten into anything big in quite some time, but with my kids, I tend to admit it almost instantly. Like whenever I overreact or I've jumped down their throat for something or whatever, I know whenever I've crossed the line almost immediately. And I'll stop, go cool down, and then come back to them and be like, look, this is why I reacted the way that I did. It wasn't right. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have handled it that way. And I'm sure they can only hear that so many times before they're just like, fuck you, Dad. And I get that. And I allow them to feel that way. I don't try to take that away from them. Because I've been there and I didn't have a choice. And I just had to deal with it. And I don't want them to be like that. I want them to understand that their dad is going through a process right now. And I'm not going to make all the right decisions. I'm not going to always pick the right choice. But I am trying to learn from it. And I am trying to get better. So the next time a situation like whatever happens arises, I have a better chance of handling it the correct way. Because for so long, I thought I had to be the hard ass. I thought I had to be the rock and all this shit that, yeah, as a father, you do have to do stuff like that because your family is looking to you for guidance and for leadership or however you want to phrase it. But I've learned recently that they also need to see the vulnerability. They also need to see you fucking up. You know, I always quote Star Wars, and there was a line in, I think it was The Last Jedi, where Yoda, his Force Ghost, is talking to Luke, and he was like, you didn't heed what I said. I'm not going to do the voice. You didn't heed what I said. You didn't pass along what you learned. He was like, yes, success, triumph, all that stuff, you do pass on. But failure, that also is a learning tool. And I've failed plenty in my life. Like we all have. I make no qualms and I make no excuses about it. I've fallen short of the mark many a time in my life. And while it sucked in the moment, Yoda was right. Those are the moments that I learned the most. And those are the lessons that I try to impart to my kids. So they don't get upset whenever things fall apart. Because inevitably they will. You're not going to make it through life without adversity. You're not going to make it through life without people judging you or telling you should be this or you're not enough of that or whatever. I've heard it my entire life. I'm not Mexican enough to hang out with the homies. I'm not white enough to hang out with the crackers. You know, I'm too much of a juggalo, so I can't be a metalhead. I'm too much of a metalhead, so I can't be a juggalo. Or I don't dress like this. I don't dress like that. And it's just, even then, I was over that shit. Because I like dressing the way that I dress. You know, some people would say I look like a bum. Okay, that's fine. I don't agree with it. Because I'm not dirty. I'm a very clean person. Which surprises some people because they look at me and just automatically assume I'd smell like patchouli and asshole or something. I don't know. And that's not the case. You know, it's like I consider myself a dichotomy in a lot of ways. Because I may look the way that I do. You know, with the beard and the piercings and all that shit. And people think a certain thing about me. Something negative, typically. And I'm not that. I'm really not. I have a good job. I'm a hard worker. I have an insane work ethic, sometimes to a detriment. And people would assume that I'm still just a burnout because of the way I look. And if I had it my way and weed was legal and all that stuff, yeah, I probably would be. At this point, I'd still have the work ethic. And I'd still be able to focus and get my stuff done. But if it was legalized, like, your boy's trying to process some shit. And I don't like stereotypes. You know, it's like, oh, you don't speak Spanish, so you're not Mexican. Okay. My family's last name is Pina Perez. I have Lopez. I have fucking everything on my Mexican side. But yeah, I'm not Mexican. I like to say that I grew up Mexican in the aspect that I grew up in a very religious family. Every Sunday, my grandmother was getting together with all of her sisters, and they were all popping shit, just laughing and having a good time. And I remember seeing that. And that's how I am now. Family is the most important thing to me. Always has been. Probably always will be. Whenever we all get together, you know, whatever issues we may have are put to the side, and we enjoy each other's company. Period. You know, and even with the family that I've built, with my friends and with my wife and my kids, it's the same thing. You know, in those few hours that we get to spend together, it's all that shit's at the door. Yeah, we might talk some serious shit and get things off of our chest, not necessarily with each other, but, you know, just about life. But once we get it out, it's out. And then it's back to, oh, this dumb motherfucker. And just busting balls and talking shit, because that's what we do. That's what makes us laugh. That's what makes us happy. Because that's how we grew up. You know, and people assume so many things about so many people. And I hate the phrase, don't judge a book by its cover, because I feel like it's so overused, but it's apropos. It really is. I try not to judge people based on what I see up front. I judge people by the vibe that they give off. I judge people by what they incite in me. Because there's a lot of people that I didn't think I'd be friends with in general. Some through music, some through professionally, whatever, just because of that whole initial impression. And I'm sure a lot of people have thought that about me. I mean, shit, one of my best friends thought I was a douchebag whenever he met me because he didn't know me. Not that he was wrong, but then once he got to know me, he realized the person that I was. And we became inseparable for a very long time. Anytime they were in town, that was it. We were hanging out, we were going, doing things, whatever. Partying. And a lot of people have had that perception of me. That I'm just that guy. That I'm the party guy. That I'm the douchebag, womanizer, whatever. And while that has been true at times, admittedly, a lot of it was a pose. Not that I wasn't doing the stupid shit, because I absolutely was, because I wasn't grown up yet. And I'm not saying if you have an open relationship or if you do whatever, as long as it's agreed upon and everybody's cool with it, 100% go for it. I don't judge. But that wasn't my case. Well, sort of, but it's a whole nother story. Anyway, I've gotten to a point where I just don't care about judgment. This is the bottom line. I don't worry about the perception. I don't worry about, oh, what are people going to think if I'm doing a podcast? What are the professional people going to think? What are the hardcore people that I know that are coming up in music or whatever, or that I came up with in music? What are they going to think? Are they going to think I'm soft now? Are they going to think I'm a joke or whatever? And what does it matter? Why am I not allowed to be a multifaceted person? Everybody has multiple sides to them. And I'm one of them. You know, I grew up in horror movies and listening to Insane Clown Posse, listening to every fucking hardest metal that I could find. I still do. Because it's my thing. I like aggressive music. I like aggressive shit. But that doesn't change the fact that I'm a caring, loving person. And that I have emotions. I don't mind sharing that with people. I don't mind showing that to anybody anymore. I used to hide it because I didn't want emotions. Because I felt like they made you weak. And I realize now, at the point I am in my life, it's the exact opposite. Showing emotions show that you're strong. As long as it's not one-dimensional and all you do is get angry and start fights with people. That's not emotion. That's just anger. Well, anger is an emotion, but you get what I'm saying. And it's very difficult to break all of those things. It's very difficult to not want to lean in whenever everybody tells you you're this, that, or not enough this, not enough that. And we need to consciously try to not do that and stay true to ourselves. Because I've noticed the more true to myself that I am, the more content and happy that I am. There's no questioning. There's no, well, I don't know. I don't get that feeling in the pit of my stomach where it's just like, I don't think this is right, but I got to go through with it. It's very much a vindication of everything that I've felt in my life. Where it's just like, oh yeah, I should be into this, or I should do this. Everybody else be damned. I'm not doing it for them, I'm doing it for me. Nobody else is paying my bills, so what do I care? And yeah, we need people to like us, because for some reason we're social creatures and we can't survive without physical interaction, whatever. Which is the ultimate fuck job, because a lot of people are assholes. But we can also try to change the world around us. Be it change ourselves and you attract the people you want around you, or just try to be there for the people that you do know and try to help them be better people. Whether it's just listening, whether it's giving them advice, helping them out when they need it, whatever. Just being good to each other. And I think the world needs more of that. That's it for today, y'all. Remember, don't let the noise make you. You make the noise.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode. If you like the show or know somebody who would, please subscribe and share to help us grow the show. You can follow us on all socials at thatinfernalnpc. You can listen on YouTube and Podbean at That Infernal Noise or anywhere else you get your podcasts. Please tune in next week. Same bat time, same bat channel.